Hello and welcome to Cinema Savvy with a brand new movie review. It is myself, George, and tonight I'm joined by Tate as we bring our review for Noah Baumbach's latest drama film, Marriage Story. So again, we've seen this at the film festival. We're going to get a lot over the next week or two. We're at the film festival. We've seen a lot of the films coming out next year. We've also got normal content on our channel. We all did our joke review together yesterday, so check that out if you haven't seen it already. But we are essentially on the slow burn into Oscar season, like you can say. It's that time of the year where the blockbusters are kind of, there's maybe one, maybe two left. And then it's going to be fully front Oscar films, live streams, obviously nominations, BAFTAs, Oscars, all of that. And it's a week earlier this year. It's going to be February the 8th, the actual ceremony, I believe. But we're here to potentially talk about one of the favourites, and that is Marriage Story. It stars Adam Driver and Laura Dern. Not Laura Dern, sorry. Yes, Laura Dern. Scarlett Johansson is the other lead.
Yes.
Do you want to start?
Sure. So, we saw this together at the film festival. It was one of the first films we saw at the film festival, I want to say. Was it the first film we saw?
No, Jojo Rabbit first.
Oh, we saw Jojo Rabbit. So this would have been the second film we saw together. But I wasn't really expecting anything going into this. I didn't really know much about it going into it. All I know is that it was going to be about divorce. It was starring Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. That was it. There was no other prior warnings. I hadn't seen any of the trailers. I know there's only 2 trailers out right now, which are basically the opening dialogue to the film in itself. But I came out of it very pleasantly surprised, almost beyond pleasantly surprised. This ended up being my top film of the festival in the end, as far as what I thought was the best film was concerned. What about you, George?
I'm going to agree. I think this was the best film from the festival. It's not my favorite film from the festival. Personally, I think I've always said on record for years, there's a humongous difference between what is the best and what is your favorite. My favorite film of all time is Star Wars, but to me, the best film of all time is Schindler's List or Godfather. There's such an almighty divide which people just don't get it. But this is the one where, same with you, I'd seen the trailer, I'd seen memes, because obviously anything with Adam Driver in becomes a meme because obviously the connections to Star Wars. The 2 trailers were both teasers. They're a minute long, like you said, the opening scene of the film. And it gets you in from the get-go. This film is about divorce. This isn't a let's build up a couple for 45 minutes and say they're divorcing. This is like a sort of a juggernaut of this is how great they are, this is how great they are. 5 minutes, straight to the room, we're having a divorce. I've never really seen, I want to say this is a romance film set in a divorce.
Correct. I'd say that. I'd categorize it as that. There are a couple of films that do this kind of romantic film without it actually being about 2 people falling in love. Probably the best example of that would be Blue Valentine, which was absolutely fantastic when it came out. Perfectly depicts 2 characters separating in its own right. But I like seeing films like this. All romantic films don't always have to be put into that category of rom-com or a romantic and then another genre. This one purely focuses down on the 2 actors, the script, and everything that comes in between it. And I will say just the chemistry and yet also the tension between the 2 characters is amazing. These 2 are going to get Oscar nominations, both of their performances. This film, just in general, is going to be given, I think, a lot of Oscar nominations across the board in a lot of categories.
I think, I wouldn't say it's going to get a nom for Best Supporting Actor, but if it had that, it probably would have been one of the rare films that gets the nomination for all 5. Now, I'm going to say I've not seen any of Noah's films. I actually have one in my hand here, While We're Young, which I bought last week, which I aim on watching. It's safe to say that
was it Merriweather Stories on Netflix?
Merriweather Stories, yeah, and I think Francis Hart is a famous one. I think he's in a fair few, to be fair. And I've not seen any. This was my first time. He has a very sort of not niche reputation. I think he's a director that not many people have heard of, but he seems to be very consistent with his kind of reputation amongst the industry. And obviously not to name drop out, we obviously had an interview with him, David Heyman, some of the cast. Now, the big thing with those interviews was David Heyman saying one of the proudest moments of his career was being asked by both Noah, obviously Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He was asked by them to produce the films this year. Now, again, that's what one of the most successful producers of the last 20 years, who produced every single film, billion-dollar franchises. Paddington, which is, I swear, like 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. This is the guy that defined this as one of the best moments of his career, which is completely understandable. Now, after watching this, now, obviously, not to go into personal life, I've not been through this myself. Obviously, I'm 23.
No, I haven't either. But
my parents haven't either, which I'd say I know this. So I think it's a very eye-opening story because obviously so many friends and whatnot have been through that in the past. It's quite an outside view. I can imagine a lot of people seeing this. They're going to relate especially to I forgot the name of the character of the son, but he is essentially the MacGuffin of the film. There's at the same time, but it's which parent not wants custody of him. It's not that kind of courtroom film, but he's very much a central plot point.
Is it
both
Carter, the name of the kid?
I can't remember. It may be. I think he was a good young actor. Like for a child actor, some of them can be tedious and too annoying. I think he gets the balance right. I think they do well with him. But I want to say that what Noah said to us as well was that he very, very early on he had both Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver signed up, and that was during the writing. So he wrote the characters around both of them. Now, obviously, I'm not hidden from this. Adam Driver is my favorite working actor today. I've bigged him up a lot in the past. Scarlett Johansson, we don't really see enough of, I want to say, in sort of not non-Marvel films, but we don't really get to see her compared to her earlier days doing dramas now. She is fantastic in this. They had such good chemistry together. You can believe both the love side and the sort of the divorce side of it. They carry the entire film, and there's a reason it's been written around them, and there's a reason that it's those two playing those two roles.
It's always going to be difficult if you write the character for the character, or if you write the character for a person, because sometimes it works perfectly, like in this film where it was obviously written for these characters, and sometimes it really doesn't. And you've got someone in mind and it just doesn't work out. This film balances almost everything perfectly. There are parts of the film where you side with one of the parents, and then there are parts of the film where you side with the other parent, and then there are parts of the film where you just want to side with the kid, really. And just like you want the best for all of the characters. They're not horrible characters. They're all likable in their own way. And this film tackles kind of a lot of various different things that comes with a divorce. It does take us along that journey of kind of that, not really from the first moment of we should split up, but it takes it from a stage where they're already decided that they want to kind of part their own ways and they're happy to do it on equal terms. But as the film goes on, it does devolve into something where it does become like a competition over the child, and it does become like almost these two competing not only for something but against each other in who can win out of this relationship. And it is devastating in some parts, completely devastating. There are some scenes which really does hit home pretty hard. I think one of the best scenes of the film calendar year, I guess, we're not really going to talk about it, but there is an argument scene which is absolutely phenomenal. It will be shown for both of their Oscar kind of reels when their name comes up, everything like that. It is absolutely phenomenal acting from both parties.
And I think what comes with that is when we mentioned them getting the best out of the actors. If you look at Adam Driver, he's a very not an intimidating individual, not so nasty. He's got a military background. He's tall. He's lean. He has that physique where, he could probably F you up if he really wanted to. That argument scene, without going into spoilers of the context of it, they show him at his absolute acting best. It starts off so calm between the two of them, and then it enrages into these sort of two character moments where they are just unleashing sort of verbal hell on each other.
I'll be honest, I think it would have been very difficult for them to go through those scenes with that kind of level of shouting, the words they had to say to each other and everything like that. Even as actors, that's sometimes going to hit very close to the characters.
And that's the other thing. And I think what goes with that scene, obviously, there's a moment with the wall where the entire cinema, it gets very tense, and it's like intimidating, uncomfortable, tense. But you want to know what happens next. And I think another thing, I guess that's the direction of the writing again. what this film does is it doesn't align you to one of them from the get-go. Some films are so obvious. This one's in the right, this one's in the wrong.
Yeah.
Now, what this film does, it starts off with them both equally, and then it will dip both of them into some. There'll be some scenes where one's righteous. There'll be some scenes where they're not. There'll be some scenes where they'll drop a revelation about an individual, and it's not a plot twist, but it's kind of there like, do I want this person to win? Not that it's about winning, but it creates that environment of you don't know how this film's going to end. Like, not that someone has to win, but you don't know how it's going to finish. And I think what also comes down to this is, you've got these two lead actors, but they've both got their lawyer, who is the supporting actor for both.
Yeah.
Now, Scarlett Johansson has Laura Dern, and Adam Driver has Ray Liotta. Now, Laura Dern definitely has a lot more scenes, and I think she's got supporting actress nomination in the bag. Laura Dern is amazing in this. I've not seen her in a role like this where she's not a villain at all. I've not seen, is it Pretty Little Liars, the TV show everyone talks about?
I think, is she in that?
She's in that. I've not seen it, but I think in this film she's playing a different role to that as well, where she is she's the lawyer and she's really likable, but at the same time she's kind of detestable because her sole ambition is to obviously make Scarlett Johansson win. And you obviously everyone's going to line Adam Driver, but some of the stuff, even Scarlett Johansson's uncomfortable about some of the methods they're going to pick in going for this settlement. And then you enter Adam Driver, who has Ray Liotta, obviously from Goodfellas, the gangster films. You'd imagine on the spot that shady lawyer, where actually he's the opposite. He knows exactly what he's doing. There's a brilliant scene, a courtroom scene, a war of words with Laura Dern and Ray Liotta. And Ray Liotta really has two scenes in it, but I think he's in it just the right amount of time to match his character's arc with Adam. But I thought the acting was solid around, and again, I think it comes down to the right. I don't think there was a scene where there was too much of one thing and not enough of the other. I think there was a perfect balance in this. I think from the the opening scene, the opening minutes, you kind of gripped. It's telling you everything you need to know about both of them, and they kind of harken on that throughout the film. And I think that's what ultimately leads it to the end goal, is that you've known everything you need to know about them within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's how are you going to follow it from that point. And that's what I think that this is. I didn't see that many romance films, but again, I know you mentioned to me Blue Jasmine or Blue
Valentine.
Blue Valentine. Now I've never seen that. That's one that you've mentioned before. I've not seen films like this, and that's what made it so much more fascinating, because it's also so relevant for so many people. Yeah. I don't think I've struggled to find a criticism in this film.
I also struggled to find a criticism. It was almost flawless, absolutely fantastic. It's one which also stuck with me throughout the entire festival. Like, it's after that moment of seeing Marriage Story, I was immediately comparing every other film that I'd watched to Marriage Story in its own right. I don't really have much more to say about this. The music was fantastic, if not a little bit too loud on your red carpet interviews. And the cinematography was gorgeous as well. This film isn't all dark and dank and everything like that. Like, it isn't a completely depressing affair. There are some great humor moments within the film, and some of the dialogue between the characters, because it's so quick but it feels so natural and so realistic, it does come across as quite funny. I think there were a few moments where the cinema did laugh at a couple of the scenes.
I think to go with that, ultimately they are very likable, the pair of them. You don't dislike one or the other. You genuinely like both of them, and you want them both to come out all right when they've got the little kid as well. It's quite heartbreaking when you think about it, but as a film itself, it to me, it's a very, as you mentioned, it's flawless. And the music, Randy Newman, definitely too loud on every single red carpet. I even checked the BFI ones, and it drowned out Adam Driver. Randy Newman as well, the fact that when you're watching the film, it kind of feels, this music sounds so familiar. I know he didn't do Up, but it sounds a lot like Up. Obviously, the famous song Married Life, which is Michael Giacchino anyway. But when the credits roll and it's there like music by Randy Newman, it just clicks. It's kind of like the anti-Pixar. Like, Pixar, so obviously, the films have done the original.
If this was a Pixar film, it'd be called Down.
Yeah. Or what was the? Yeah, there you go. Kind of like, it's the exact opposite Up, because Up, you've got like the brutal first 5 minutes, and then everything after's like trying to be really nice. But this is like, here's the lovely 5 minutes. Now you're gonna go into this awful sort of not awful drama. But
I was going to say, from his previous film, Marriott Stories, I haven't seen Marriott Story. I haven't actually seen any of his films that he's done before. But from what I've heard from people commenting on his movies, all of his movies have one thing in common, and that is that they all feel like they've got real people in the film. They contain real dialogue pieces. Like, it's not a clean, like, one person talks and the other person talks. You've got people starting to overlap their senses with each other, people butting in. It feels so natural and it looks so natural. And I really like the style of film. I want to see more films do this kind of style of dialogue where just conversations feel like two people actually talking. You get it so many times in Hollywood where people are talking, and even sometimes the words they say, it just makes no sense. It's just to pull on the plot or anything like that. This film felt real. You lived the lives of these two people throughout this entire process, and you came out the other side as well.
And one thing I want to quickly touch on, Claudia has commented, hi, so no parallels with Kramer v. Kramer. I've never seen it, I'm afraid, so I don't know if you have.
It's Al Pacino. Yes, I have. I mean, other than the fact that it's a divorce film, it's quite difficult to compare these two films, really. This film takes a completely different approach to the way the story is told, as it really does kind of hone in on these two perspectives and show you kind of just what it's like to go through this experience.
And I think as well, going back to the actors again, you mentioned it's like real dialogue. That's the best writing. The best writing is when it feels natural. I know people will obviously say Tarantino films are too.
Oh, sorry, not Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, and was it Meryl Streep or was it? I can't remember. Sorry,
I've not seen it.
Find out.
I think with this, when you mentioned the dialogue, that it's a real setting. That's the art of writing. So few people do say, this feels real. Like you mentioned, people interrupt one another. Tarantino's a master at doing this. Obviously, some of them over elaborate, it can be long, but he writes dialogue, sort of not even dialogue, discussions, scenes. He writes conversations, and I think that's an art that not many people get to do these days. Claudia has put Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
But
apologies.
I thought this is excellent. This is in my top 5 of the year. I am very excited I probably won't see it again at the cinema. I'm definitely going to wait for the Netflix release to watch it in December. What I do want to say on a closing note, it's hard to sum up because we've kind of both said throughout this entire thing, it's a great film. I want to see a lot more acting from Scarlett Johansson. I thought this is her best role in a long time. Obviously, spoiler of Endgame, she's not in that anymore. We know Black Widow as a prequel. I really hope she can do some more of these sort of dramas. We don't get enough of them.
She was quite good in Jojo Rabbit as well. This is quite a strong Oscar term for her.
Scarlett's got a good year coming, and not to criticize Marvel, but obviously everyone knows the Marvel contract. When you're called in, you're called in. It makes it harder for them to take roles. Has anyone seen that awful Dr. Dolittle trailer? Robert Downey second non-Iron Man performance in 8 years. So yeah, I thought it was great. I want to see more. Obviously, Adam Driver, I always laud him. He's cementing himself as he's going to be one of the actors of the next 10, 20 years. Then also Scorsese at Toronto. He introduced him as the best actor of his generation, and he's definitely getting his second Oscar nomination next year. Now, whether he beats Joaquin Phoenix, personally, I don't think he should, but it would not be surprising. I think that's the key to go with it.
I think it's a good shout. I think he'll be nominated, definitely. It's how the Oscar voters will vote on it.
Exactly. This feels more, I don't want to say Oscar bait, because it doesn't really come across as Oscar bait either. I mean, I've read into a bit of Noah Baumbach. His parents divorced when he was younger, so I'm guessing this felt very real to the heart with him too. Obviously, he's probably not exactly anything like it, but he's had he's had stories. This has clearly had an influence on him, and you can see it. And it's almost not point of view of the child, but when a lot of it does follow the kid go around seeing his mom, seeing his dad, questioning why they can't do stuff together. So you can imagine this felt very personal to him when he's probably writing and directing this, and I thought it was excellent. And Claudia's commented, "You better bring your A game when acting opposite of Adam Driver." Correct, Black Klansman. He's got some great scenes. I'm not going to go on about him all the time, but
I'd say he's probably one of the more. Are we still able to say he's up and coming, or are we actually able to now say that he is? Solidified.
Going completely off the point, and this isn't a criticism of Star Wars. Adam Driver has done so many projects between the Star Wars films. He filmed Force Awakens between Force Awakens filming and the release, he did Patterson. He did a couple of others post Last Jedi before 9. He did Black Klansman. He keeps himself busy. Right now he's filming a net in Belgium. I think there's another film. No, the report's coming out that was filmed just before Episode 9. That's out next month. He's keeping himself busy, but he's picking very good films, and he reminds me not of a Christian Bale, but in the sense that he's had his big franchise, and I don't see him going into another franchise. Maybe he would one day, but if you're not going to see Adam Driver sign a 10-year Marvel deal. No. He's done his Star Wars, and I don't think he does seem to enjoy it. I know he does a lot less press than all the others, especially with Star Wars. I think it's in his contract. It would look weird if the villain was advertising toys. I think he's going to be a very big name in Hollywood over the next years, and I also think his name, his attachment to Star Wars, will allow projects to get greenlit because it does have that connection. And obviously, not to again go into the fan base, but with the Raylos, he's got a lot of fans, and I think he's played his card. He's done a blinder. He's got acting in the right time. The Star Wars trilogy is going to finish, and he's already cemented himself as an incredible actor by the time he's done with his franchise, which very few people
agree. I completely agree.
But
yeah, that's it.
I'll say that's our review. We'll kind of wrap it up. We've got a lot more London Film Festival content. You mentioned Jojo Rabbit. We've got that. We've got bloody hell Honey Boy, Le Mans, loads. We did none of it for Irishman. We do want to say that fell through, but we've got a lot of content coming your way, so they'll be with you over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, we've got normal cinema releases. Apparently, there's a new Terminator film out in a couple of weeks. I got a load of trailers for that this weekend, which was really random because at the film festival we didn't get any trailers, which was actually really nice. But join us, like, share, comment, subscribe on our social media. We've got facebook.com/cinemasavvy, on Twitter @cinema_savvy, and on Instagram @cinema_savvy. To have a follow on there. We've got more content coming out. We'll update you when we're going live with reviews. We've got reactions. There may be a new Star Wars trailer tonight. It was apparently going to happen, but there's no official announcement, so don't get your hopes up. Obviously, Chris will be there to cover any reactions that do come up. And as we said, we've got many of the reviews and actually interviews, I guess we can kind of say, for a couple more weeks. But thank you all for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.